The recent protests led by Gen Z in Kenya have brought big changes and are inspiring similar actions in Nigeria, Malawi, and Uganda. These protests have already caused the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024, the elimination of unnecessary state officers, the dismissal of the cabinet, and the resignation of the police chief. Despite these wins, the young protesters are not satisfied and continue to demonstrate, wanting all their demands met. In this video, we will explore key questions. What are the protesters' main issues? Why are they asking the IMF and US Ambassador Meg Whitman to leave Kenya? What did the Gen Z audit of Kenya's public debts reveal? And what are they asking the IMF to do? How is this part of a bigger trend of young people challenging authority and demanding honesty? Before we dive in, subscribe to the African Web channel and ring the bell icon to stay updated with the next parts of this story. Additionally, the protesters are exerting pressure on the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the US Ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman, urging them to leave Kenya. To gain deeper insights into the current situation, we invite you to watch the full video from Kenya. It provides valuable perspectives on the ongoing developments on the ground. Gen Z protesters in Kenya have made strong demands and voiced their frustrations clearly. They accuse the IMF and other international entities of manipulating the country for a resource grab, comparing it to the colonial era of 1884. They claim that the IMF knew about the protests but still pushed Nairobi to pass the budget, considering the protest threat as only medium. Now, after things have escalated, the IMF is offering their deepest sympathies, which the protesters see as insincere and patronizing. The youth are also frustrated with the long-standing corruption in Kenya, saying that the IMF has ignored their pleas to stop funding Kenya in the face of rampant corruption. They feel that the IMF's actions are transparent to everyone and cannot fool the public anymore. One protester said, "You can't fool us, man. It's so blatant." Moreover, Kenyans in Washington, D.C. have decided to take action by planning demonstrations in front of the IMF headquarters, demanding that the IMF stop its involvement in Kenya. They insist that both the IMF and the US Ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman, leave Kenya to allow the country to address its issues without foreign interference. Enough is enough, they declare as they continue to push for greater accountability and autonomy for their nation. Gen Z protesters have directed strong words toward the President of Kenya, expressing their frustrations and warnings about his engagement with globalist organizations such as the World Bank, the IMF, and the World Economic Forum. Many had warned him against these alliances, predicting they would ultimately use, misuse, and abandon him. In recent statements, the president himself acknowledged that foreign powers were planning to remove him from power. The protesters highlighted that these globalists, including Western countries and America, tend to discard leaders who become unpopular. Despite previously being regarded as a key ally, the president was notably absent from the recent NATO summit, signaling that the globalists might be planning to distance themselves from him. The protesters urged the president to prioritize the interests of Kenyans over those of the globalists, who are now turning against him. They pointed out that global media is tarnishing Kenya's name and portraying him as an unpopular leader. Gen Z emphasized that the IMF had predicted chaos in Kenya because of their insistence on implementing the Finance Bill 2024, despite knowing it would spark a revolt. The protesters reiterated the urgency, stating, "It is time you wake up, Mr. President, and the earlier the better." They demand that the president shift his focus to the needs and interests of Kenyans, rather than those of international organizations that have proven unreliable. Recently, the Kenyan Gen Z has taken a courageous stance by drafting a direct letter to the International Monetary Fund, IMF. They unequivocally presented the findings of a thorough forensic audit of Kenya's public debts, leaving no doubt that Kenya does not owe any outstanding debts to the IMF. The letter insists on the IMF acknowledging and respecting these findings, urging them to refrain from making further claims or interventions regarding alleged debts. It underscores the urgent need for transparent and accurate financial relationships between nations and global financial institutions, encouraging the IMF to initiate further discussions or request additional details. The Kenyan Gen Z community eagerly anticipates a prompt acknowledgement and cooperative response from the IMF. The recent wave of change in Kenya, ignited by Generation Z's protests against taxes, appears to signify a significant shift in societal attitudes toward authority, echoing historical transformations witnessed in other nations. In a recently widely publicized media event, free journalists took a bold step by directly challenging the President of the Republic of Kenya with rigorous and probing questions. This tense interaction, characterized by its departure from traditional deference, reflects the sentiments expressed widely across social media and public demonstrations. Particularly noteworthy is the increasing outspokenness of young Kenyans on platforms that allow them to question established norms and voice discontent without the filters of deference and fear that previously governed such interactions. While this trend isn't just happening in Kenya, it reflects a global shift where respect for authority is no longer taken for granted. Similar changes happened in the United Kingdom, UK, during the 1960s, when even the British monarchy faced criticism. This cultural shift was part of a bigger move towards more openness and democracy, challenging old ways of doing things. In Kenya, recent public debates and discussions show a similar change is underway. The old idea of always respecting authority figures no matter what is fading away. Young people are leading the charge, demanding honesty and accountability from leaders in bold ways that were unheard of before. This shift marks a big change in how Kenyans view their leaders. We cannot say for sure if Kenya is about to have a moment like the UK did in the 1960s, but things are definitely moving towards a society where people question authority more and expect it to be fair and open. This change could lead to a new era in Kenyan politics, business, and communities, where authority is respected when it's accountable and inclusive, and where people feel free to speak up and be part of decisions. In conclusion, the recent actions by Kenyan Gen Z have sparked a profound shift in societal attitudes towards governance and authority, echoing global movements towards transparency and accountability. What are your thoughts on these developments in Kenya? How do you think similar movements can impact other African countries? Let us know in the comments below. Please like and share this video to spread awareness about the ongoing situation in Kenya and the voices of its youth. Don't forget to subscribe to the African Web channel for more updates on important news like this, and ring the bell icon to stay informed. Thank you for watching.